kind of a conspiracy, you know.
Your average person doesn't have any idea.
Where's the evidence to back that up?
Yes.
No.
I would say yes.
I don't think so.
I think it's more of a laziness thing.
We talk about recycling in general, or
Right, so I'm here at Hastings District Council and I'm going to go catch up with my friend Angela, who's an expert on recycling. So Angela, we've been roaming the streets of Hastings asking the locals what they actually think happens to recycling. I've got lots of questions for you, but the first one is what actually happens to recycling here in New Zealand?
The biggest myth that we face in New Zealand is that recycling just all ends up in landfill and it's treated as rubbish. Councils wouldn't implement a separate service to collect that material and then send it to landfill rather than just telling people to put it all in the bin. Yes, when there's contamination, that material does have to go to landfill for whatever reason, but if people take responsibility and put out clean materials, and this is both residents and commercial operators, that material can then be recycled. And the idea of recycling is to keep it in circulation for reuse over and over again.
So let's find out, is rinsing your recycling actually necessary and why does it matter?
There's a term recycling juice, and if you think of if people didn't rinse their containers or their trays and put everything out together, you've got everything from a bathroom to a kitchen to food packaging, that all mixes together and it's not a very pleasant material. It just, at some point through the recycling system, doesn't matter where you live, that material or item comes in contact with a person. We all hate the smell of sour milk or really old chicken juice in a tray. If they don't get to it for a week or so and then they're having to handle it, it's a very unpleasant experience. So the idea of rinsing means that you don't have to wash it and make it sparkly like your crystal glass or anything like that, but it just means it's got a higher chance of getting through the system to be reused as recycling.
So is wish cycling like chucking something in the bin hoping it gets recycled, making the system worse?
Systems only work when everybody plays their part in that process. So by wish cycling, you're putting in things hoping that it might be recyclable. But generally, under the curbside standards, councils provide a service for a limited range, which is based on household packaging that is readily available. So if you've got an old frying pan and you want to chuck it in your curbside recycling, whilst it might be recyclable, that's not the system for it to be collected.
Yeah. Thanks, Angela, for sharing, and hopefully that's busted some myths and some common misconceptions around what actually happens with our recycling right here in New Zealand. Well, I've magically appeared at Boring Oat Milk and I need to go talk to Joe about what's going on here. Hey Joe, nice to meet you. Yeah. So Joe, did you ever consider glass or the food and beverage packaging or cans, and what actually ruled them out?
So really when we came down to it, glass bottles, unreliable with export, breakages, it's heavy, so not great for the carbon emissions that come with a heavy weight when you're shipping. Cans, not so good for the flavour in a still high pH product. And Tetra just was never really an option for us because of the multi-layers in the packaging and the limited recyclability when it comes to our biggest customer market, which is New Zealand. So if we combined all those things, it's not the perfect solution, but it's the solution we felt was best to deliver to our product needs and to our customer needs.
So what's the main benefit with the boring packaging for consumers?
The best thing for our consumers is that they can put our empty bottles into their curbside recycling. Unlike some of the other formats that we could have opted with, where you have to actively go to a drop-off location that may or may not be available within your home or region. We really like the flexibility that it offers to consumers no matter where they live and no matter what access they have to recycling. The sleeve offers protection to the product, so it protects it from light and the consequences of oxidation to flavour and to colour. The sleeve also helps us communicate to our consumers from a regulatory perspective. There's an element we cannot not put on the bottle, and it takes up a bit of space.
So Jo, like if you could invent the perfect bottle, what would it actually be made of?
If we were to design the perfect packaging for boring oat milk, it would be endlessly recyclable, carbon negative, and safe and fit for purpose for our oat milk and our consumers.
Are we all good in the cake situation? So I find a lot of people are really concerned about what happens to recycling in New Zealand. There's a lot of myths around like it being shipped offshore and, you know, where does it actually end up? So a lot of products are actually being recycled onshore in New Zealand where possible. Unfortunately, New Zealand's a really small country, so we can't recycle everything, but there are, where possible, solutions for things like aluminium, some of the steel products. A lot does get sent offshore. Some of the plastic gets recycled here, paper gets recycled here, but if the market is offshore, then it's better for it to go offshore, and then we buy it back, and things like, you know, a car has got all the aluminium and steel parts into it, or maybe even recycled plastic. So offshore markets do actually contribute back into the New Zealand economy in other ways as well. If recycling is put into the bin correctly, like it's cleaned out and it's prepared properly, then it will be recycled. Maybe not in New Zealand, but definitely will be recycled in the appropriate market. So it's all about taking a bit of responsibility and making sure that we clean the recycling properly. Look, I know recycling's boring, but well done, you guys. I love using boring oat milk because one, it's long life, so it lasts a long time. Number two, I can recycle it in my curbside bin, but not the lids and not the sleeves. You've got to remove the sleeves. So I saved this one from earlier. Ideally, you know, you can buy this and you can definitely curbside recycle it. The biggest myth I see is definitely people thinking that all of our recycling goes to landfill, which it definitely doesn't. Only goes to landfill if there's a problem with the recycling. One of the really interesting things we get as feedback about recycling is it's not my job to clean it, or it's not my job to take the lid off. They feel like they're donating their recycling to council to make some money out of it, which they're not. And I had a guy one day who was like, I'm not micromanaging lids, and because he didn't want to have to take it off. And I was like, wow, that's like, it's not hard to take a lid off. Like when you've finished the bottle, the lid is off. You just don't put it back on. So a lot of people are really confused about the numbers on recycling. The number's actually a plastic identification code. It doesn't actually mean that a product can be recycled. Like on your recycling bin, it's probably got a number 2, but it doesn't mean you can recycle your recycling bin. If it's got a number 2 on it and it's basically from your kitchen, bathroom or laundry and used for food or beverage or house cleaner packaging, then it can be recycled. Anything that has a number 2 or 5 or 1 on it that is a reusable container, like a Tupperware or any sort of Sistema containers, anything that can be used multiple times is not recyclable. It has to be like basically a single-use packaging. So the plastics, I think, get confusing for people. The rules have constantly changed. Last year, the government standardised recycling, and so now the rules are the same for everybody. So it's a 1, 2 and 5 is the main plastics, or the only plastics you can put in your recycling bin. But the other plastics, 3, 4, 6, 7, there's no market for them to be recycled. So some of the councils were taking them, but they were landfilling them. Nowadays, they're only taking the ones that actually have a solution for their products. From what I've learnt, plastic can actually be recycled up to 7 times. Technology is getting better, products are getting better, and brands are doing better by rethinking the way that they package their different products and using a higher amount of recycled plastic. If I could change one consumer habit, it would just be more around people having a set of personal responsibility to essentially buy less packaging or be aware of what they're actually buying, like a general knowledge of what can and can't be recycled. And I suggest through our education, when you're going through the supermarket, learn what products that you regularly buy can be recycled, and if it can't, then find an alternative. And recycling in general has become easier than it's ever been. Simple rules, simple way to understand your plastics, 1, 2 and 5, tin cans, aluminium cans, paper, cardboard, and your glass, which is your clear, green and brown glass, and that's it. If it's not in that category, it cannot go in. And if we do keep contaminating the system, it's never going to get better. We need to all follow the rules. Then it will be cheaper, more effective, and then they may be able to look at additional products that the system could deal with. But at the moment, they're just dealing with masses of waste that people just keep throwing in their recycling bins. So there you have it. Turns out recycling is not that boring.